Happy Friday night, everyone. Welcome to Mrs. Rogers' Stamperhood, where I come live every Friday night for my Friday Night Live stamping session. So I'm going to share with you tonight a great little stamp set. I just love these guys. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But as you pop on, please say hi. I'm going to just kind of find me. Ooh, shoot. How do I mute myself there? Let's see. All right, there we go. I've muted myself. So, hi Sheila. Nice to see you. So it's warm in my stamp room tonight. I'm not sure why the air conditioner is not going on in the other room, but we'll deal with that later. So I'll try to make it quick. It's actually a fairly quick card tonight if it weren't for the coloring. Tonight we are going to do this card or something very similar to this card. This card is not my design. It's a variation of one from a fellow demonstrator, Su Mohr, who does absolutely fabulous work. She had it as a single base. I'll tell you in a little bit why I didn't have it as just a single card without any layers. But it uses those adorable gnomes, Kindest Gnomes, and it uses Wonderful World. It uses these flowers as covering or a shade for those little tiny gnomes. I just thought that was super, super cute. So let's go ahead and dive in and make this card. So I'm starting with a base of basic white. And even if you use thick basic white, when you color with the blends, it's going to go through on the other side, which is why I wanted to make a layer here. If you don't, you're going to see when you open it up, if you had just done it on the front of this card, you would see ink coming through, and I don't like that. So, and it doesn't matter how easy you go, it's the alcohol inks, they go right through. So that is why I layered my card up, because I want the inside to look as clean as the outside. And I just love this little sitting gnome. So we've got 4 gnomes in here. One that's a girl, I guess. She's got long braids, and she's got definitely more feminine lips. You've got this guy standing up, this guy with a lantern, and then this guy sitting down playing peekaboo with his hat because it's in the way. And then you've got this nice little mushroom home that I'm going to show you a couple other cards that I've done with this in a little bit after I recreate this card. So let's go ahead and get the sitting down gnome out. So this is a red rubber stamp set. And you might have noticed when I opened this up, I have these 2 things in here. This is masking paper. So Stampin' Up! Has recently begun offering masking paper. And you know how we use Post-it notes to mask? How we've done that in the past? You've seen me get out these full sticky notes. Well, masking paper is very, very similar to that. It's a little bit thinner, which means it'll have a little bit less of a halo around. You can reuse it. It's great. And so what I've done is I did use these because on another card you'll see in a moment, I stamped one gnome sitting on top of a mushroom. And so I needed that. And then I needed the mushroom for a different card. So I just cut them out and I can reuse them. I just stick them in there and that holds them. All right, we also are going to need, and I meant to look up what kind of flower this was. We do have a list of what they are. I just did not look it up before I came on. I'll put it in the comments when I edit the video. I'm going to stamp that in Gorgeous Grape. So we're starting with a piece of basic white that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So just a 1/2 inch less than normal measurements. And I'm going to stamp it. I want I want this one to kind of lean off to the right because he's going to be giving shade, and I want this one, this taller one, to pretty much be vertical. So beautiful deep purple. That will actually lighten up a little bit as it dries. And then we need to stamp our gnome sitting underneath. I'm going to, because I'm coloring him with my blends, I'm going to ink him up with the Memento Tuxedo Black. And let's put him under here, right here. There we go. So now we need to color him, and we need to add some grass. Now, interesting note, I did not think I had a grass stamp. I posted this card, and Sheila loved it so much she made her own version, and she used a grass stamp that she said, and I said, oh, where'd you get that grass stamp? Hi, Rachel. And she said, oceanfront. And I'm like, oh, I have that stamp. So how come I couldn't find it before? So anyway, but I'm going to show you, you can make your own grass pretty easily. But for now, let's go ahead and color this guy. And I'm going to be using soft seafoam for the hat and for his mittens. And soft seafoam, all your blends actually come in a package of two, a light and a dark. And that's what's going to help give you some depth of color. And I always start with a light, and I take my cap off away from my project just in case it's going to spew some alcohol. Sometimes it does that. So here's the light, and I'm just going to give this a nice wash all over. And I want to be very careful with the tip. I'm not coloring very hard. I'm being very gentle because I want to preserve that tip. Now, blends are consumables. They're considered consumable items because, you know, the ink is going to dry out after a while, or you're going to use it up after a while and have to replace them. Now I'm going to add some of my dark, and I put the dark around the edges. Now I'm going to put it underneath his brim, over here, put it around the edges of the mittens. This part of the hat's in the back. There's where the fold is. I'm going to color actually in here. There's some folds in there. All right. Then I'm going to come back in, and I like to use the bullet tip for this, and I'm rubbing over it with the bullet tip of the lighter one and blending those lines away a bit. So I can still see the lines a little bit in here, but not very well. And you can see that I didn't really color over this spot right in here because you want to leave some lighter areas. Now I do find I want a little bit more dark, so I'm going to add a little bit more. The more time you take with this process, the better the coloring is going to look in the end. This stuff blends so well. I'm going to make it darker in here. There we go. And that actually looks pretty good. I don't really see any lines. I'm going to get out my Highland Heather markers. That's just a shade lighter than the Gorgeous Grape. And I'm going to do the same thing for his clothes. Now, his clothes are a much smaller area. So I'm going to go ahead and use the bullet tip and just touch lightly. And I don't need to go all the way to the edges. Usually it'll spread a little bit. So you get close, but you don't have to get real close. If you know what I mean. And then he's got part of his clothes showing under here because his beard is swagging over across his leg there. I'm going to take my darker color now and add in some contour. You can really see it with the dark here. So by doing it around the edges, I'm giving that rounded effect there. I'll come back with my light color and blend away those lines. And as this dries, it does dry lighter. I know it looks like I'm making all the same color, but it really, as it dries, it does lighten up a bit. Now, if you find there's a point where you have colored a little bit too much, you want it a little bit lighter, you can always bring out your color lifter. Sometimes you can get some boo-boos to come up on that. You can add a little highlight here and there. If I wanted this to be a bigger highlight, I could do that in there. Just takes the color out a little bit. I'm also finding that if I do this in a certain way, like I was just doing, it really kind of adds to the wrinkly effect, the worn look of the hat as well. You know what I didn't do? I didn't add some of the dark to the mittens down here. I'm going to do that right now. A little more dark. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to just take my gray here and color the bottoms of this guy's shoes. If you like coloring, these gnomes are so much fun to color. Just because they have such a great personality, they're just so cute that you want to take the time to color them. All right, so there we go. What else do we need? Well, we need to color his face a little bit. I'm going to get out my ivory one, and I'm going to color his nose. It almost looks a little brown when it goes on, but it does lighten up. His mouth, around his little eyes. There we go. He's just peeking out there. And our gnome is ready to go. Maybe I want to highlight an area on his nose a little bit, make sure that, you know, the sun's shining on it a little bit. He's got a little oily nose. It's glistening in the sun. All right, so that's pretty good there. One other thing that I did, and I'm not sure if I still have any left in this or not, I added, oh, there is some. I add a little bit of sparkle to his beard. Now my husband has gray hair, but it's not really gray hair. I think it's silver hair. And, you know, especially when I'm cutting it, it just sparkles. It really does sparkle. It's really pretty. And so that's what I'm doing for this guy's beard. And so he is colored. Now all I have to do is add the sentiment and add a little bit of grass because I want to ground this. Right now it looks like they're kind of floating in the air. So let's go ahead and add some grass. And so I'm just doing this. Okay, this is my mossy meadow. And we'll put some next to my gnome too. And so some are longer, some are shorter. That's all I did there. And then I took the darker one with the bullet tip. Whoops. This little guy misbehaves all the time. The wrong part comes out. I'm just going to put it back in there. This is a really old one too. I need to replace it pretty soon. And see how I can just put in a couple of little extra dark things in there, because grass isn't all one color. So this is what you can do to help give some ground effect and make it a little bit more realistic looking. You could add a shadow in here if you wanted. I'm actually, one of the reasons why I only used my dark smoky slate was because my light smoky slate got used up on all the donkeys and sheep I was coloring a while back. So I just got in today, and I didn't get it out yet, a new set of blends, smoky slate blends, because I'm going to want to use them on my hippos, although gray granite would also go well. Anyway, I might add some ground here with a gray, some shadow, if I had my light one out, but I don't have my light one out, so I'm not gonna. And it looks fine without it. So we need to add a sentiment, and I'm gonna use a different sentiment on this one. I'm gonna use the "You Know Me So Well." So let's see if we can get that one out here. You know me so well. Who doesn't love a good play on words? I'm just stamping this in black as well. You know what? I want to see if it's going to stamp straight. Okay, it looks like it'll stamp straight if I can stamp it straight. There we go. And now all we need to do is make a card out of it. Now, you'll notice here, I layered it on a very light color. I used the soft seafoam in the back, and that's just a slight difference in size. So this layer is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and then I have a regular card base. But let's go ahead and get out some of those free Sale-a-bration cards. So this is the soft seafoam, and if I bring it closer, maybe you can, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, you can see the design there. Okay, so we could just mount this right on here. Yeah, let's just do that. How about that? I'll make it even a faster card. Even though I did have my layer already cut. But see how it shows through the back? That's what you want to avoid, because that's just doesn't look good when you open a card and see that. I'm just avoiding his beard here because that's gonna, it might still be wet. But there's our card. Pretty quick and simple. We can stamp a little gnome on the inside, or we can stamp more flowers. Let's go ahead, and I'm just breathing on this to reactivate some ink, and we'll just put these flowers right here in the corner. There we go. The envelopes that come with this set have a design as well. So we have a matching card and envelope all set to go to somebody. But I hope you enjoyed this card. Oh, I told you I was going to show you some other cards that I did, right? Using my gnomes. So this card I was playing with as well. And so you can see I made more grass, because I needed more grass. And I used my blending brushes to make the green grass down here, and then just a light, I think I used balmy blue for the sky. And I just have some rich, the mushroom and the girl were kind of done using a combination of real red and cherry cobbler. And look at, I gave her pouty lips. So it looks like she's kind of kissing, blowing you a kiss. So she's lots of fun. And I just stamped another little guy on the inside. Then my favorite card, honestly, this next card I'm going to show you is probably the card that I love the most. This is one of my favorite cards that I've done in a really, really long time. This is just a nice wintry night scene. So it's basic black that has been splattered with white craft paint from a water painter. And my gnomes were fussy cut. I didn't use the dies because I didn't want any edge at all. So I fussy cut them after I colored. I actually stamped this gnome first on a piece of white scrap. Actually, it was this layer. It was a full layer. And then I masked him and I stamped the mushroom, and then I cut that out. So this is actually the piece that they were cut from. So I just started cutting here and I cut around, and then I gave it a little hill over here, and then I added this guy, and they've got dimensionals in the back to pop them off. And just the contrast and how well these guys pop off this page. This is one of my favorite cards. I don't think I'm ever going to give it away.